Chapter 1075, Depends on Your Luck. Even Lu Jishi, the highest record of Miracle Healer Academy's written assessment, only completed 862 questions in the end. How could this Shiyu complete 1/3 of the questions in just half an hour? But looking at his sloppy appearance, he must have answered blindly. Caillou snorted coldly, watching attentively, but the more he watched, the more frightened he was. Only a moment later, Shiyu had already answered a dozen more questions on the new page. And these questions were almost all correct. It was almost because Caillou himself wasn't certain about a few questions, but he somehow felt extremely reasonable about Shiyu's answers. He even felt like he was enlightened. Seeing Shiyu's swiftly writing pen and his delicate side face, Caillou was shocked. This young man, who is he? Caillou's behaviors naturally attracted the attention of the chief invigilator. He glanced at Caillou with inquiry and was about to walk over. Caillou panicked, shook his head quickly and sat down on his position. The invigilator didn't think too much. The assessment was still going on in an orderly manner. Heshi, who was concentrating on the test paper, couldn't help but raise her eyebrows and peek at Caillou behind her thoughtfully. 2 hours passed quickly, and the test papers of all examinees would be recorded and handed in by the invigilators. After the information was entered into the examination papers, all examination papers would be sealed. It was no longer possible to see which examination paper was answered by which student. The sealed information would not be revealed until all examination papers had been marked. Caillou took Shiyu's examination paper and walked toward the chief invigilator. Another member of the Academy Student Council came out with him. Seeing him shaking his head impatiently, Caillou couldn't help but smile. "Zhang Chong, why do you look so unwilling?" Zhang Chong sighed and said with disgust, "The person I invigilated is really too disgusting. He kept showing off that he is a 4th-level doctor or someone from the royal family of the Haoyue Kingdom. Pooey, with that pig brain. Even from the royal family." As a result, he couldn't even answer the most basic medical questions. Caillou originally wanted to tease him a few more words when he heard the words, but suddenly his heart moved, and a faint light flashed in his eyes. When the two turned around the corner and were about to enter the room where the chief invigilator was, Caillou suddenly struck Zhang Chong unsteadily. For some reason, Zhang Chong felt his hands numb, and the test paper he was holding fell to the ground. Not only was his hand numb, but he also felt a little dizzy, wondering if he was agitated by the disgusting examinee. Caillou held him, handed him the test paper, and smiled, "Be careful, if you lose the test paper, I will kick you out of the Academy Student Council." Zhang Chong laughed, took the exam paper, and walked into the room without much thought. Caillou gently squeezed the test paper in his hand behind him. His eyes looked gloomy. "Shiyu, even if you are talented, people like you who are bad conduct and vicious are not qualified to stay in Miracle Healer Academy. Whether you can pass this first round of assessment in the end depends on your luck." Thinking of this, he sneered and quickly ran toward the main invigilator's room. The results of the first round of written assessment were still announced on the square where the spiritual route was tested yesterday. At this time, the scorching sun was in the sky, but 98 examinees and their companions were eagerly waiting on the square. None of them leave early. Chapter 1076, Who is Qin Jianqing? Bai Hu and Qing Wan also walked around in front of Heshi, looking up at the Miracle Healer Academy in the enchantment from time to time. Bai Hu said, "Why is it so slow? Isn't it just a written assessment result? It's already half a day. Young Master is more focused on practical skills, but this academy is examining the damn theories. Will Young Master somehow fail? Pooey pooey pooey. Your mouth is really filthy." Qing Wan glared at Bai Hu and said with a cold face, "Who is little? Young Master. How can he fail? I asked Miss just now, and Miss said that those questions are not difficult. It isn't a problem to pass the assessment. If Miss said so, she will definitely pass it." At this moment, a figure flashed in the mist, and the boy in green clothes who had appeared yesterday slowly walked out of the enchantment. Everyone became excited when they saw him. They held their breath and stared at his every move, waiting for him to announce the final result. The boy in green clothes was still cold as always. He waved his hand, and dense words appeared on the bulletin board in the square. For the Miracle Healer Academy entrance assessment, 48 people passed the first round. The above is the list of candidates who will advance to the next round. The content of the second round of assessment will be announced in an hour. Please stay here for a while. After finishing speaking, before everyone reacted, the boy in green clothes disappeared into the square in a blink of an eye. Only at this time, no one would bother about the boy in green clothes as they rushed toward the bulletin board. No me. I actually failed. I thought I did a good job in the assessment. Great, I actually passed the first round of assessment. If I knew that the entrance examination was a written assessment, I would learn from the elders in my family. There was a lot of discussion among the crowd. Some were happy and some were sad. However, after initially paying attention to their own results, some people's eyes looked at the first place in the written assessment. At this moment, someone finally discovered a shocking fact. Oh my God! Look, the person who ranked first in this written test actually got 999 points. You're joking, how? It is really 999 points. How is this possible? Miracle Healer Academy's best record is only over 800 points. Who is so crazy? I can't even finish half of such difficult questions. Someone only got one wrong. Is there an entry error? On the top of the bulletin board, first place 999 points Chen Jiancheng were written then. Suddenly, the crowd burst into a commotion. Everyone was looking and shouting, Chen Jiancheng. Never heard of it. Who is this? How can he be so powerful? Do you know that the content of the written assessment of the Miracle Healer Academy reflects not only the theoretical level, but also the comprehensive strength of the martial artists? Almost everyone who got good results in the written assessment passed the final assessment and entered the Miracle Healer Academy. Now they are even superior in the academy. I heard that Miracle Healer Academy's highest score holder so far is Lu Zhishi, the daughter of the president of the Doctors Association. She is even the president of the Academy Student Council. Her initial entrance examination score was only over 800 points. This Chen Jiancheng is even better than Lu Zhishi. Unexpectedly, we would be able to participate in the assessment with such a powerful person, but who is this Chen Jiancheng? Chapter 1077, Worship and Flattery. Among the crowd, a young man with a greasy face, triangular eyes, and a slightly rounded figure stood in place with a look of astonishment. He stared at the bulletin board in front with his body trembling in excitement. Until the voice of the people looking for Chen Jiancheng came into his ears, his manservant suddenly recollected his thought and shouted excitedly, Chen Jiancheng, it is our young master. That is our young master. Master, you actually got the first place in the assessment and broke the record of Miracle Healer Academy. You are really amazing. If you pass the assessment this time, Master must be so exhilarated. As soon as the manservant's words came out, everyone's eyes fell on the man. Many people saw that his appearance looked extremely ordinary. No one who participated in the Miracle Healer Academy assessment could be more than 30 years old, but he looked as if he was already in his 30s. Everyone couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Such an insignificant, even somewhat ugly appearance, was really not worthy of the appearance of a legend. At least as beautiful as Lu Zhishi or as handsome as Kai Yu. However, most people immediately walked toward Chen Jiancheng with flattery faces. Mr. Chen, I'm honored to meet you. It is a great honor to be able to participate in the assessment at the same time as Mr. Chen. Our Wang family runs the medicine hall in the Lin city. If Mr. Chen is looking for cooperation, come to me anytime. Mr. Chen, I didn't expect you to be so excellent. Even your looks are good-looking. You can get such a good result in the assessment. You are truly the first person in Miracle Healer Academy. Does Mr. Chen have any knowledge to share with me so that I can pass the assessment tomorrow? It is said that the second assessment is likely to be conducted in teams. It would be great if I can team up with Mr. Chen. I would appreciate Mr. Chen's advice by then. Mr. Chen, I'm Wang Jia of the Immortal Crane sect. In the subsequent assessments, I'm willing to follow Mr. Chen's orders. The disturbing noise came from all directions, and Chen Jiancheng was dizzy by it. His shiny pink face was flushed. He still seemed to be in the clouds and mist, he couldn't figure out the situation. However, the eyes of those around him looking at him were so admiring and flattering, which greatly satisfied his vanity. Originally, he was still thinking, how could he get 999 points when he didn't answer all the questions? But with everyone's compliments one after another, he instantly put this suspicion behind him. Although Chen Jiancheng claimed to be a royal family, in fact, he and the real royal family of Haoyue Kingdom had too far blood connection. None of the royal families of Haoyue Kingdom looked up at him. 10 years ago, Chen Jiancheng worked hard in training and studying, and he finally became the 4th-rank doctor. But after becoming a 4th-rank doctor, he came into contact with the upper-class circles in the Doctors Association and Haoyue Kingdom, and he found that he was really inferior to a dog in the eyes of those who were superior. Moreover, he also realized that instead of working hard to cultivate and to study, it would be better to please the elders in the Doctors Association and exploit the civilians of Haoyue Kingdom, which would give him a chance to rise. Chen Jiancheng, who had been trying to please others, never thought that this day would come. In the past, these people were those he wanted to flatter, but now. Chapter 1078. The score doesn't matter, looking at the gorgeous clothes and outstanding looks of the men and women around him. These people were either rich or noble. They had extraordinary backgrounds. There were even a few experts of the gold core stage early stage. But now, these people were all around him, flattering him and making him like a star. This feeling is really great. Chen Jiancheng coughed and suppressed the excitement in his heart. He pretentiously waved to everyone. Everyone has overpraised, I'm not that good. However, I have some talents in medical skills since young. I initially thought I could get the full score, but I still got one wrong. This is such a shame. As soon as this remark came out, the crowd became even more excited. The people around Chen Jiancheng couldn't wait to boast him to the sky. Not far away, in the direction where He and others were, Qing Wan stared at the results on the bulletin board, but she couldn't believe it at all. Why, young master, how could you only get 503 points? That's right, there were only 48 people who passed the first round of assessment, and He was the last one who barely qualified. Qing Wan was He's hardcore fan. Since He said that she thinks the exam is okay, then it must be okay. How could she end up with such a result? Gu Lufeng also didn't believe in the results of this assessment. In his mind, Shi Yu was omnipotent. She could amaze everyone no matter what she did. Such results were completely inconsistent with Shi Yu's style. Only Bai Hu breathed a sigh of relief. No matter what, at least it's a pass. I told you that theory is not the strength of young master. Fortunately, after passing the first level, it will definitely not be a problem to pass the next level. Qing Wan glared at Bai Hu fiercely, filthy mouth. It's because of your nonsense. She asked He with a move of her heart, young master, did you do it deliberately to keep a low profile? Before He had time to speak, Wei Chengyuan on the side also leaned over, put his arm on He's shoulder and said with a smile, Shiyu, I also think that compared to the greasy pig's head over there, you seem to be able to pass the exam with such peerless results. He pushed Wei Chengyuan away, glanced at the bulletin board and chuckled, 3rd place, 692 points, not bad. The 2nd place in the written examination was Shui Yu Sec's eldest miss, Han Qianer, with a score of 708. Wei Chengyuan suddenly stood up straight and said with a smile, "Hee hee, that's a must. When little Yuer enters the Miracle Healer Academy, brother can give you tutoring for what you don't understand." Gu Lufeng glanced at Wei Chengyuan with deep eyes. Who is this guy? His identity is mysterious, his strength is extraordinary, and he keeps getting close to Shi Yu for some reason. He even calls her little Yuer. This is really displeasing for some reason. Bai Hu was even more blunt. Who are you? Come to show off after getting a high score. Do you believe I will beat you? Qing Wan was still annoyed, clutching Heshi's sleeve and whispering, could it be that they made a mistake? Heshi couldn't help but smile and pat Qing Wan's hand. She watched the bulletin board with a flickering gaze, but she said indifferently, it doesn't matter whether the score is high. Just a pass will do. Qing Wan, why do you care so much? The two failed candidates on the side sneered immediately after hearing this. See, some people have a thicker skin than the city wall. Just admit that you get the last place. You even found Yosef such a high-sounding reason. Pooey. Chapter 1079. Not interested, yeah, isn't it just the passing score? If I work a little bit harder, maybe the 48th place will be mine. I don't know if he is lucky or what, he actually dares to talk big. Hey, don't bother about this man. You see, so many people have surrounded Chen Jiancheng, let's hurry over and get as many friendships as we can. Yes, no need to even talk to this trash. He will be eliminated in the second round of assessment. The crowd in the entire square surrounded Chen Jiancheng, and everyone's face was filled with admiration and flattering smiles. If they could have a connection with such an excellent person, they might get some benefits in the Miracle Healer Academy, so no one was willing to fall behind. But in the square, of course, not everyone would go and flatter this first-place candidate. Such as Wei Chengyuan, such as Heshi, and also such as the second-place Shui Yusex's Miss Han Qianer. However, Chen Jiancheng, who was surrounded by the crowd, saw Han Qianer's beautiful silhouette, then he suddenly pushed away the crowd and walked quickly toward her. The fat and chubby hand stretched out toward Han Qianer. He spoke with excitement and arrogance in his tone, Miss Han, I'm Chen Jiancheng, I was lucky to get the first place in the first round of assessment today. Do I have the honor to invite Miss Han to have a cup of tea? He looked up and down Han Qianer's perfect figure as well as her beautiful and cold face with fiery eyes full of wild ambition. I heard that the assessment tomorrow is likely to be a team performance. I still have some skills in medicine, so I want a high score that Miracle Healer Academy has never had before. If I can team up with the beautiful Miss Han, I believe my skills will surely make Miss Han pass the assessment smoothly. When Chen Jiancheng saw Han Qianer on the first day of registration, he was deeply attracted by her cold, glamorous, ascetic temperament. When he was alone, he fantasized himself pressing on top of her body countless times, stripping off her clothes and ravaging her at will. Of course, with his identity, this kind of obscenity could only be fantasized in a dream. With his identity and ability, if he stood in front of Han Qianer, he would have to be beaten by her servants. However, the announcement of the first round of assessment results today gave him unlimited confidence. He was now a legend who broke the record of Miracle Healer Academy. Many people couldn't wait to flatter him and build a rapport with him. Even if it was the Shui Yusex's eldest miss, she would naturally fall for his talent. Thinking of this, Chen Jiancheng's smile became even more confident. Speaking of which, Miss Han's first round of assessment is also good, only more than 200 points lower than mine. Compared with other people, Miss Han is also considered smart. However, if we can discuss together, I believe I can give pointers that can help Miss Han grow even more. Chen Jiancheng was really proud of the decent and boastful words he said. He raised his chin arrogantly, waiting for Han Qianer to thank him happily. However, Han Qianer turned her head, glanced at him with a blank and cold expression and said with a monotone, not interested. Chapter 1080, Is he stupid? Just two simple words, as if she didn't even want to talk another word with him, then she left with her servant. Qin Jianqing looked at Han Qian'er leaving. He was taken aback for a moment, then his face was suddenly distorted. The taste of being flattered by everyone made him feel so ecstatic that he almost forgot what it was like to try to please others in the first place. He wanted to curse Han Qian'er for not being sensible, but Han Qian'er's identity was really noble. He couldn't afford to offend her, so he could only grit his teeth and held it back. Suddenly, Qin Jianqing turned and saw Shi Yu and the others, standing leisurely and calmly one by one. He saw that there was no admiration in their eyes, and they didn't try hard to flatter him like others. Qin Jianqing was immediately infuriated. Never mind if Han Qian'er ignored me, Shi Yu, a foundation establishment stage, dares to be so arrogant, not putting me in his eyes? Isn't this looking down on me? Hey, kid! Qin Jianqing took a few steps forward, staring at He coldly with triangular eyes. Are you Shi Yu who is good at pill refining? He raised her eyebrows and said casually, yes, so what? Qin Jianqing raised his chin and said, I heard that the medicinal pills in Shengda Hall are very good. I just lack a few medicinal pills these days. How about you give me hundreds of best quality pills? Of course, I will remember your kindness to me. I will give you indispensable benefits in the future. He sneered, but before she could speak, Gu Lufeng had already taken a step forward and smiled in an official manner. I'm sorry, Shengda Hall has regulations. Regardless of whether they are poor or rich and their strength is high or low, everyone needs to book in advance to buy medicinal pills. We don't allow credit too. If you want to buy medicinal pills, go to the nearest, Wanyuan city, to make an appointment. Qin Jianqing's face turned grim after hearing Gu Liufeng's words. However, he didn't look at Gu Lufeng, but he stared at Shi Yu coldly with triangular eyes. Although the cultivation of Gu Lufeng, Bai Hu and others seemed to be higher, he knew at first sight that Shi Yu was in charge. Qin Jianqing said sinisterly, Shi Yu, what do you mean? Everyone is the examinee taking part in the same assessment, don't you even want to give this little face? Do you know that the assessment is not over yet? With your own strength, you will die miserably in the second assessment. Just for these little medicinal pills, you don't even want your life? If you are smart, I don't mind helping you. He slowly smiled, and her voice was louder and clearer, not interested. As soon as she said this, Qin Jianqing's face suddenly turned into a pig liver color. He was so angry that he trembled, and he looked at He with hateful eyes. He's answer was simple, and it was the same answer as Han Qian'er's. Is he shaming me in public? Is this brat really tired of living? The crowd also burst into discussions. Is this Shi Yu stupid? Such a good chance to curry favor with the first place, he just let it go like that. Maybe he doesn't even have the authority of Shengda Hall's best quality pills, so he dares not agree to it casually at this moment. If he can't sell it, then just don't sell. Just suffer a little loss. He even offended Mr. Qin. I think he will be very miserable in the second round of assessment. Chapter 1081, Inexplicable Irritability. Some people rushed to Qin Jianqing, handed him a few bottles of medicinal pills and said flatteringly, Mr. Qin, don't be angry. This kid is insensible, why should you be bothered by him? These are the best medicinal pills sold by my medicine hall. I failed the assessment this time, so they are useless for me. I'll give them all to Mr. Qin, hoping to have a good bond with you. Qin Jianqing heard the people pleasing around him and ridiculing He, and the anger in his heart disappeared a little. He took the medicinal pills handed over by others and kept them in the storage ring before he smiled coldly at He. Since you are so arrogant, then never mind. But, don't you blame me for not reminding you, the second round of Miracle Healer Academy's assessment is not that simple. Although you passed the first round of written assessment by luck, you are just at the mere foundation establishment stage. Hee, just pray for yourself in the following assessment. He smiled faintly, turned around and sat down at random, leaning on the stone bench and closing her eyes to rest. Although Bai Hu, Gu Lufeng and others hated Qin Jiancheng, Miracle Healer Academy stipulates that all candidates participating in the selection were protected by the academy. They dared not try to beat up others casually, so as not to cause trouble to He. Wei Chengyuan glanced at He, then at Qin Jiancheng who looked wretched and smug, and he smiled slowly, the dimples on his face were looming. An hour passed in a flash. Soon, the enchantment flickered and the boy in green clothes slowly walked out. Only this time, the boy in green clothes did not come out alone, but he was followed by an elder. This elder was the one who presided over the spiritual root assessment the day before yesterday, and behind this elder was Kai Yu, the vice president of the Academy's student council. Kai Yu glanced at everyone present, especially Qin Jiancheng with an arrogant look, and he finally looked at Shi Yu with some inexplicable complexity. He had seen what happened on the square just now in the Academy enchantment, including Qin Jiancheng's arrogance and Shi Yu's silence. Shi Yu really doesn't know that his grades were exchanged? Impossible. He was so confident when he answered the questions. But, if he knows, why doesn't Shi Yu speak up or protest? This Qin Jiancheng, as Zhang Chong said, is really disgusting. But such a person, because of me, is now the top of the written assessment. An inexplicable irritability surged in Kai Yu's heart. He immediately shook his head to drive out the excess emotions. At this moment, the square was silent, and everyone looked at the elder. He spoke with a low voice slowly, "My surname is Qin, you can call me Elder Qin. I believe everyone present knows me. We all met when screening the spiritual root qualifications on the first day. Now, you can stay because I wrote your names onto the lists." When Elder Qin said this, the nervous examinees underneath suddenly relaxed a lot. Their eyes looking at Elder Qin became more cordial. Elder Qin smiled slightly and continued, "I believe many people have already guessed the content of the second assessment. We will proceed in groups. 48 people are divided into 8 groups, each with 6 people. The content of the assessment will not be announced now. By tomorrow noon, there will be people bringing you to the assessment venue." Chapter 1082, Curse to Everyone and Himself. After hearing Elder Qin's words, the candidates below became more confident as they looked at each other. The content of the Miracle Healer Academy's assessment would change every year, but one thing wouldn't change was that there would inevitably be a round of assessments that needed to be conducted in groups. Therefore, before these candidates came to participate in the assessment, many of them had already made good connections with several families and sects to form a team so as to increase their chance of passing the assessment. But then, Elder Qin's words broke their beautiful illusions. However, the difference between this year and previous years is that the grouping will be determined through a draw lot. What? No way. As soon as this remark came out, the square suddenly burst into commotion. Those who had already decided to form a team, especially those candidates who were planning to pass the assessment, were disheartened. Grouping through draw lot meant there was a high chance of people burdening the group. Of course, there were also people who were delighted. Those, who were not strong and did not have the support of the family or sect behind them, originally thought that they could only work alone in the second round of assessment, but the decision of drawing lots was equivalent to giving them a high chance of relying on the better candidates. The chance for them to pass the assessment was naturally greater. How could they not be happy? However, after the chatters, everyone's eyes couldn't help but fall on Shiyu. Everyone's eyes were full of disgust and contempt. They couldn't wait to kick this guy who was only at the foundation establishment stage from the list of passing the assessment. Then someone said, "Whoever groups with Shiyu really has extremely bad luck." After that, there was a burst of lively discussion in the crowd. How? My family has talked to Zhu Jingwei before to let him assist me this time. He has the Thunder spiritual root and is at the Gold Core stage, which is a strong combat power. With him, I have higher chance of being selected. Now, I'm definitely hopeless. Yeah. In order for me to team up with the strong, my family also paid a lot of magic weapons and medicinal pills. Now those are all in vain. But no matter who you get, it isn't so hopeless as getting Shiyu in your team, right? With him, I guess the Gold Core stage will be dragged to death. This kind of person is really shameless. He obviously doesn't have enough strength, but he still wanted to participate in the assessment. He can't pass it, but he still wants to drag down the others. Doesn't he feel embarrassed? He just scored 503 points on the written assessment. Why can't he get wrong for a few more points? Just let him be eliminated in the first round. Now, he is just a curse to everyone and himself. Shh, keep your voice down, be careful that he hears it. So what if he hears it? Could he still beat me? He dares. From the beginning of complaining about the draw lot rules to almost everyone expressed their disgust on Heshi. If she had a bad psychological quality, she would have quit, but she just stood there listening to the boy in green clothes introducing the cautions and taboos when participating in the group assessment. The boy in green clothes and Elder Chin were more calm as if they hadn't heard the comments from the people below at all. They just announced the various rules. During the assessment, all the invigilators will watch your every move through the 9-turn recording stone. In the end, your assessment results in the second level will be comprehensively considered based on both team and individual performance. Chapter 1083, Who are they? Personal items are not allowed, including medicinal pills, magic weapons, spiritual pets and storage devices. Before the assessment, the college will uniformly distribute basic materials to ensure the fairness of the assessment. These regulations were similar to those of the assessments in previous years. Many candidates did not listen carefully, but they stared at Heshi hatefully. The words from their mouth was getting more and more harsh. Wei Chengyuan's original attitude was that it had nothing to do with him, but he was a little furious. Bai Hu and the others were fortunate that at the beginning of the draw lot, the non-related crowds were all driven out of the square, otherwise they would really give them a painful lesson after hearing those remarks. Wei Chengyuan glanced coldly at the people who pointed at Heshi, and the pressure of Gold Core stage on him was released. Soon, those with insufficient cultivation were suppressed and dare not speak. Their eyes watching Heshi were still full of contempt. Wei Chengyuan leaned close to Heshi and said, "Shiyu, they said those words to you, you really don't care." Heshi smiled nonchalantly, and she slowly said, "Why should I care for these nobodies?" Wei Chengyuan was taken aback for a moment, then he couldn't help laughing out loud. He really found this young man more and more interesting. After the boy in green clothes finished the announcement, the draw lot soon began. Heshi got the 6th group, while Wei Chengyuan was in the 1st group. Wei Chengyuan regretfully said, "If only I could be with you, with me protecting you, let's see if those guys dare to say more." Heshi smiled indifferently, but she still said, "Thank you." Although Wei Chengyuan's identity was a mystery and his purpose was a mystery, Heshi couldn't feel any malice from him. Heshi still knew how to appreciate other people's kindness. Holding the inscribed jade slip with her grouping information, Heshi walked slowly to the 6th group. In order to make the next day's assessment faster, after the draw, the members of each team must get to know each other. When Heshi walked over, some people said delightedly, "Great, this burden is not in our group. I'm really afraid that the results of our entire group will be affected by him." Until Heshi walked until the 6th group, the other members of the other groups were relieved. They were looking at the members of the 6th group with eyes full of sympathy and gloat. Especially when they saw Chen Jiancheng, who was the first in the written assessment, and Han Qianer, who was the second in the 6th group, many people were even more delighted. In this way, the final results of Chen Jiancheng and Han Qianer would be lowered, and the chance of other groups getting better results would be greatly increased. Contrary to the other groups of candidates, when the members of the sixth group saw He standing in their team, their faces suddenly turned grim. A pretty-looking woman even took a step forward and said gloomily, "Are you sure you really got the sixth group? It's not because we have Mr. Chen and Miss Han, so you deliberately want to take advantage of it?" This woman seemed to be about 26 years old, and her name was Chen Xiaoying. Among all the members of the sixth group, except for He who had the lowest cultivation base, she was only at the intermediate stage of the condensation period. In addition to Han Qianer of the gold core stage and Chen Jianqing of the condensation period later stage, there were also Wang Hai and Yang Hailong of the condensation period later stage. Although the written assessment scores of Wang Hai and Yang Hailong were not as high as those of Chen Jianqing and Han Qianer, they were still in the middle upper rank. Chapter 1084, Don't Count Me. So, the strength of this group of them, comprehensively seemed to be very strong. Therefore, when Chen Xiaoying just found out that she got the sixth group, she secretly rejoiced in her mind. All the candidates in the sixth group were better than her. Except for Han Qianer, they were all men. She would definitely be taken care of during the assessment. Chen Xiaoying was showing great courtesy to several men in the team. When she saw Shiyu walking over, she felt very terrible. She seemed to hear the sound of her dreams collapsing. Even if Han Qianer and Chen Jianqing were more powerful, with Shiyu who was only at the foundation establishment stage, how could they have the spare effort to help her? When He activated the information in the inscribed jade slip, everyone confirmed that she had indeed drawn the sixth group. Everyone's face looked very ugly. The one-minded Wang Hai said straightforwardly, "Shiyu, you may not know it. The second round of the Miracle Healer Academy's entrance assessment is often accompanied by casualties. We will not have the time to protect you. I think you should quit here, lest you die in there at a young age." Yang Hailong also said unceremoniously, "You will have more opportunities in the future, so why stay and be a burden to us?" Chen Xiaoying even wiped her tears and looked at He pleadingly, "Shiyu, I'm 28 years old this year. This is my closest and last chance to Miracle Healer Academy. Can you please help me? Just quite the assessment, please. You are only 17 years this year. You can pass the assessment again next year." Several people babbled, all advising He to quit the second round of assessment. Some even threatened her in the end. Chen Jianqing had long been displeased with He. He squinted at He fiercely, "This is the unanimous decision of all of our sixth group. If you are smart, quit now. Otherwise, we will definitely teach you a good lesson during the assessment." With that said, Chen Jianqing glanced at the people around him and said triumphantly, "Don't you guys think so?" Chen Xiaoying, Wang Hai and Yang Hailong nodded again and again. Chen Jianqing's gaze fell on Han Qianer, and he put up an instinctive pleasing smile on his face. "Miss Han, what do you mean?" Han Qianer glanced at He, and she said coldly, "Whatever dirty things you guys want to do, don't count me in." When Chen Jianqing and others heard this, their expressions were ugly. Chen Jianqing wanted to get angry, but he managed to endure it and coughed in a low voice, "Miss Han, haven't you figured it out yet? Let Shiyu stay in the team. He will only drag us down. Never mind if I'm not the top one, but Miss Han and the others may not even pass the assessment. Aren't Miss Han afraid of this?" Han Qianer's complexion remained unchanged. She still had a cool and beautiful face. "As far as I know, the top one of the freshman assessment 5 years ago was Vice President Caillou. At that time, his written assessment was less than 700 points, but he led his group members who were all condensation period early stage to get excellent results in the group assessment. Finally, they got the position of top one. Since Mr. Chen's written assessment scores are so much higher than Caillou's, it must not be a problem to lead one foundation establishment stage or even several foundation establishment stages, right?" Han Qianer's words made Chen Jianqing's complexion stiff. He couldn't say what he had originally planned to say. Chapter 1085, Unimportant Member. At this time, Heshi's gaze also happened to fall on Han Qianer. Han Qianer nodded slightly at her. Her expression was cold, but her brows were more amiable than when she was talking to Qin Jiancheng. Qin Jiancheng's blood rushed up suddenly, thinking that Han Qianer had fallen in love with Shiyu, so she spoke up for him. His gaze looking at Heshi suddenly was like a poisonous arrow, which would kill her at any time. Qin Xiaoying and Yang Hailong were still unwilling, and they still wanted to threaten Heshi to quit. Suddenly, Wei Chengyuan appeared from nowhere and sneered, "If you don't have strength, just quit the assessment yourself. You don't have enough ability, but you persuade others to quit." What is this reasoning? Wei Chengyuan's group members also laughed. That's right. Your group has the first place and the second place in the written assessment, but you can't even tolerate a foundation establishment stage. How good are you to threaten others to withdraw from the assessment? Since Qin Jiancheng and his group were dragged down, the chance of the others passing the assessment would increase. They were of course happy to see it. The faces of Qin Jiancheng and others were extremely ugly, but they didn't dare to say anything more facing the crowd. They gave Heshi a stern look and turned away. The most luxurious hotel in Miracle Healer City was Wangyue Pavilion, while the most expensive restaurant was Xianlu House. At this time, Qin Jiancheng, Wang Hai, Yang Hailong and Qin Xiaoying were gathering in Xianlu House, venting their depression while eating. When Qin Jiancheng thought of what Han Qianer had said and her attitude toward Shiyu, he felt an anger boiling in his heart. Qin Xiaoying was keen in observing, and she hurriedly said something to please him, "Brother Chen, that Shiyu is insensible. When the assessment starts, we can just ignore him. We must not let the person who is destined to fail to affect Brother Chen's results." Wang Hai and Yang Hailong went along with her. They kept flattering Qin Jiancheng overtly and secretly, and Qin Jiancheng finally felt a lot better. Suddenly, Yang Hailong pointed at the door and whispered, "Brother Chen, isn't that your invigilator Zhang Chong?" After hearing this, everyone looked over. Sure enough, Zhang Chong came in with a few young martial artists. Zhang Chong frowned and looked gloomy. When he saw Qin Jiancheng not far away, his expression became even more gloomy. Yang Hailong said, "Brother Chen, don't you go up and greet him?" Although the score of each candidate depended on the results of the assessment, the invigilator's evaluation was also considered. Unless they weren't stupid, they would try their best to please their invigilators. Who knew that Qin Jiancheng was full of sarcasm when he heard this? He sneered, "What are you kidding? I'm the top one in the written assessment. It is very likely that the top one of this year's freshman is me. Who is this Zhang Chong? Isn't he just an unimportant member of the Academy Student Council? Let me greet him. Can he take it?" Qin Xiaoying immediately smiled and said, "That's right. Brother Chen scored 999 points in the written assessment, breaking the Academy record. Even the president of the Academy Student Council, Lu Zhishi, can only score more than 800 points. How can this Zhang Chong be compared with Brother Chen? After Brother Chen enters the Academy, he will become the president of the Academy Student Council sooner or later. If Zhang Chong is smart, he should come over and greet Brother Chen." Yang Hailong and Wang Hai looked at each other. Although they felt that it was not appropriate to do this, they still smiled without speaking. Chapter 1086, Intolerable. Qin Jiancheng was ecstatic by Qin Xiaoying's flatter. He had long been displeased to Zhang Chong, who looked down on him. Now I have become the top. Zhang Chong is just a member of the Academy Student Council. When I'm admitted, I will definitely be on top of him." Qin Jiancheng and Qin Xiaoying said those slandering words without lowering their voice at all. Zhang Chong naturally heard it too, and his already gloomy expression was so dark that water could even be condensed from it. When he knew that Qin Jianqing's written test score was the first, and it was 999, Zhang Chong knew something was wrong. He was Qin Jianqing's examiner. He knew better than anyone that how many questions he had answered on the test paper. Even if Qin Jianqing answered all the questions correctly, a person, who only filled out more than 700 answers in total, got a score of 999 in the end. Wasn't this absurd? Zhang Chong almost immediately remembered Caillou bumping into him before he was about to seal the test paper. If anything could go wrong, it must be that time. As soon as Zhang Chong realized this possibility, he felt terrible. The students of their Miracle Healer Academy were also graded every year. Those with high grades would be promoted each year, low grades would be demoted, some would even be expelled from Miracle Healer Academy. As a member of the Academy's Student Council, they were responsible for the invigilation of the entrance assessment and they could get many scores. However, if someone found out that they had made such a mistake, not to mention that they would not get the score at that time, their score would even be deducted. If it was only me, then never mind. However, it was related to Caillou as well. If I reported this matter, I would cause the vice president to be criticized by the Academy and get his scores deducted. Fortunately, Qin Jianqing's score just passed the passing line. In any case, the kid named Xiu suffered a loss, but he also entered the second round, which is not too bad. So Zhang Chong originally planned to put this matter in his heart forever. But after listening to Qin Jianqing's arrogant words today, his sanity was almost gone. Such a scumbag, because of my own mistakes, I let him be full of himself. Seriously, this is really intolerable. Zhang Chong's face was flushed red. He greeted his classmates, then he walked toward Qin Jianqing's table and said coldly, "Come with me." Qin Jianqing still looked arrogant and proud. He raised his eyebrows at Qin Xiaoying and Yang Hailong. His expression seemed to say, "Look, I guessed it right, even if it is an invigilator, he has to come to curry me." However, he said unceremoniously, "Is there something to do with me? I'm very busy now. If you have something, just say it here." Zhang Chong sneered, staring at Qin Jianqing, and whispered, "Oh? Really? Are you sure you want me to say it here? Actually, there is nothing wrong. I just want to talk to you about your grades." I remember, before he finished speaking, Qin Jianqing's expression changed drastically. He hurriedly stood up and intercepted Zhang Chong's words. His arrogant and domineering face turned pale, his eyes flashed with panic. He kept saying, "Brother Zhang, I think we should go outside and talk." Zhang Chong sneered with eyes full of contempt, but he didn't say any more. Instead, he turned and left the Xianlu house. Only Qin Xiaoying, Yang Hailong and Wang Hai looked at each other with doubts. Chapter 1087, Warning, Qin Jianqing hurriedly pulled Zhang Chong to a secluded corner. After making sure that there was no one around, he said with a face full of suspicion, "Brother Zhang, what did you mean by that? Don't you know what it means?" Zhang Chong looked at him mockingly, "Qin Jianqing, you are really shameless. Do you really think you can get a high score of 999? Qin Jianqing's face turned green, and he straightened his neck and said, "Zhang Chong, what do you mean by this? How can I get high scores? Even if you keep looking down on me, you can't slander me like that." "Ha!" Zhang Chong laughed loudly and looked at Qin Jianqing as if he was looking at an idiot. "Qin Jianqing, have you forgotten? When you took the exam, I was behind you, looking at you scratching your head anxiously. You really think you can get the score of 999? What's more, if I remember correctly, the last answer you filled is just about 700, right?" Qin Jianqing opened his mouth in shock. He wanted to refute, but the guilty conscience and panic had completely suppressed his momentum. Because the invigilator only ensured that candidates did not cheat in the written assessment, Chen Jiancheng had always thought that Zhang Chong did not notice how many questions he finished. Zhang Chong is actually watching over me throughout the entire assessment, just waiting for me to make a mistake. Zhang Chong said coldly, Chen Jiancheng, do you want to know how your grades came from? Chen Jiancheng was taken aback, and he quickly raised his head. How did it come? Zhang Chong sneered, how do you think you came here? Do you really think you got it on your own? Tell you the truth, your test paper was accidentally exchanged with someone else. The score of 999 is not your score at all, it's not you Chen Jiancheng who breaks the record. Chen Jiancheng shivered, and he almost instinctively blurted out, Who did I exchange with? Zhang Chong glanced at him with dark and cold eyes before slowly saying, your original score should be 503 points. Just past the passing line, and you are the last among the 48 people. Who do you think you exchanged with? Ah! Chen Jiancheng widened his mouth in horror, the original green face turned even paler. 503 points, besides Shiyu who got last and was laughed at by everyone, who else would it be? However, Shiyu actually scored 999 points on the assessment. He is just at the foundation establishment stage. How could it be possible? The ridicule and warning in Zhang Chang's eyes became more intense. He whispered, Chen Jiancheng, if you understand your limit, you should behave yourself. Otherwise, if Shiyu is anxious and asks to check the test paper, then your good days are over. After speaking, no matter what Chen Jiancheng's reaction was, Zhang Chong quickly turned and left. Chen Jiancheng stood there blankly. His body was trembling as the evening breeze blew. He remembered that since the results were announced, he kept ridiculing Shiyu as trash to show his genius. Although Shiyu didn't say anything, he could be hating me. If Shiyu really goes to check the test paper, wouldn't I, Chen Jiancheng, be over? No. I don't want to be over like that. I don't want to lose everything that I have now, this kind of feeling where everyone flatters me, I must not lose it. Chen Jiancheng thought of his face distorted for a while, then the panic in his mind was gradually replaced by the vicious killing intent. Chapter 1088, Long live Mom. Zhang Chongming knew the truth, but he didn't report it because he is afraid of taking the risk of messing up the grades. Therefore, the only hidden danger I face now is Shiyu. So what if Shiyu's written assessment scores 999 points? After all, he is just at the foundation establishment stage. The group assessment of the Miracle Healer Academy has the most casualties. Even if Shiyu dies, no one would care about it. The muscles on Chen Jiancheng's face twitched, and a sinister smile slowly appeared. At this moment, he suddenly began to rejoice that he and Shiyu were in the same group. Isn't this more convenient to get rid of this hidden danger? At the next day, all the candidates gathered in the square on time. It was just that today's square was very different from yesterday. Because 8 teleportation arrays were inscribed on the square. Each teleportation array was glowing with shining brilliance at this time. The boy in green clothes stood next to the teleportation array and said, 8 groups correspond to 8 teleportation arrays, and the teleportation array will send you to the designated trial site. But before entering the teleportation array, please hand out all medicinal pills, weapons, and storage equipment and put on the clothes specially prepared by our Miracle Healer Academy for you. Many martial artists who had participated in the assessment had known this rule before, so they quickly picked up clothes from the boy in green clothes and went into the hut to change. He was the last to go in and change clothes. The trial costume of the Miracle Healer Academy was a blue and white suit. After He put it on, she looked even more elegant and handsome. Shaoli in the void couldn't help but blush and said, Miss, if you are really a man, all the women of the Miluo continent will be fascinated by you. Little Egg was nibbling on the stock food prepared by Hashi in the void, so he said vaguely, "If Mom is a woman, she will fascinate men from all over the continent. If she is a man, she will fascinate women from all over the continent. Long live Mom. Eat your stuff." Hashi rebuked in her mind, then she sternly said, "I can't bring a spiritual pet during the trial, so you all stay in the void afterward. No matter what happens, don't come out. Do you hear me?" The little guys all nodded obediently. Although they loved to play, they still had a clear sense of priority. As for whether the Sumeru Ring's void and the little ones would be discovered by the people of Miracle Healer Academy, Hashi had never worried about it. Walking out of the hut, everyone couldn't help but look at Hashi. Even Qin Xiaoying, who looked down on Shiyu the most, couldn't help but flush in her face. In fact, Shiyu's appearance was too perfect, too touching. Only Qin Jianqing's face turned gloomy. The surprise in his mind was soon replaced by the hatred and killing intent brought by panic. Seeing that everyone had changed their clothes, the boy in green clothes waved his hand gently. Soon, 48 identical trays appeared in the square. In the trays were placed a low-level storage bag, a set of clothes without any defense ability, a 4th-grade flying sword, a bottle of 4 medicinal pills and an ordinary pill refining furnace. The boy in green clothes said solemnly, "This is all the equipment you can carry for this trial. If anyone is found to bring weapons and medicinal pills secretly, you will be forever banned from the Academy's entrance assessment." Everyone hurriedly took their own trays and put their things in storage bags one after another. Chapter 1089, Elusive Forest. The boy in green clothes continued, "You enter the teleportation array first. I will elaborate on the specific trial rules with you in the secret realm." The light of the teleportation array flashed, and soon the entire square was empty. At this time, a building of Miracle Healer Academy was filled with 48 members of the Academy Student Council and a few elders of the nascent soul stage. In front of these members, a translucent crystal stone emitting a faint blue light was placed. These crystal stones were the 9-turn recording stones, which was always called Sky-priced recording talisman. The 9-turn recording stone was divided into the Child's Stone and the Mother's Stone. The Mother's Stone could see the sights of hundreds or even thousands of miles around the location of the Child's Stone. The inscribed jade slip carried by the candidates contained the ingredient of the Child's Stone. Therefore, the members of the Academy Student Council only released their divine sense into the 9-turn recording stone to see the actions and behaviors of their examinee at any time. In front of the elders of nascent soul stage, there was a 9-turn recording stone that was 100 times larger than the Academy Student Council's members. The recording stone was shining with dazzling light, and a huge image was projected in front of them. The image showed the scene in the entire secret realm. The elders could switch through divine sense to fix the image at a certain position in the secret realm. As the 48 examinees landed at the different locations in the secret realm one by one through the teleportation array, the second round of assessment was officially started. After Hashi experienced the dizziness of space teleportation, what she saw, at first sight, was the beautiful scenery. At this moment, all of them were standing by a beautiful blue lake. The lake was clear, reflecting the undulating mountains, blue sky, and white clouds, and the sun shimmering on the lake. The scene made people feel refreshed. Hashi looked up at the sun high in the sky, and she couldn't help but wonder. Are they still within the scope of Miracle Healer Academy? If they are really still in Miracle Healer Academy, then the strength of this academy is too strong. At a glance, there is no end to this secret realm at all, but the blue sky, white clouds and sun are all real, which means that we are not in the virtual space but a real world. The area of Miracle Healer Academy itself is only that large, but it has to accommodate such a large secret realm. How powerful is the time and space spell of the person who opens this realm? Hashi was exclaiming when the familiar voice of the boy in green clothes suddenly came from high in the sky. The place where you are now is Elusive Forest, one of the 3 secret realms of Miracle Healer Academy. Your goal is to survive as a team in the Elusive Forest for 10 days. In these 10 days, every time the team loses one person, everyone's score will be deducted accordingly. If the team has less than 2 people, the team will be eliminated. In addition to the survival goal, you can also hunt and kill spiritual beasts and collect spiritual grass in Elusive Forest. All the rare materials in Elusive Forest that you bring out from the secret realm can be treated as a bonus point for your performance. Each of you has your own corresponding inscribed jade slip in your hand. If you can't survive in Elusive Forest, you can crush the inscribed jade slip, and your invigilator will enter the secret realm and take you away safely. Breaking the inscribed jade slip collar is equivalent to giving up the assessment. The team members will also be deducted points. Well, please keep the rules in mind and let the second round of assessment start. Chapter 1090, Walk Our Own Way. As soon as the boy in green clothes finished speaking, the whole secret realm returned to normal. She instinctively channeled her spiritual power first, wanting to feel the strong spirit in this elusive forest. However, as soon as the spiritual power cycled in her body, she felt something was wrong. At this moment, their teammate Wang Hai also called out, "Why do I feel that I can't absorb much spiritual power?" With Wang Hai's call, everyone immediately tried to channel their spiritual power. Their faces suddenly became very ugly. Chen Xiaoying bit her lower lip and said, "The team assessment I participated in the year before last was also in the secret realm, but there was no such situation. It seems that the difficulty of this year's assessment has been increased." Wang Hai frowned and said, "Miracle Healer Academy gave us only 4 spiritual healing pills. It is fine to travel in the secret realm casually, but if we encounter a magical beast, we have to replenish spiritual power after the battle. However, we can only absorb that little spiritual power now. 4 spiritual healing pills are not enough at all." The faces of several people had become extremely gloomy. This was not only related to the quality of the assessment results. There were dangerous traps and magical beasts everywhere in this secret realm. If there was no way to replenish the spiritual power, it would be very dangerous. Chen Jianqing rolled his eyes and suddenly smiled and said, "Don't worry, the academy not only gave us 4 spirit healing pills, but they also gave us a pill refining furnace, right? As long as we find enough spirit plants, I will refine the spirit healing pill for you." When Chen Jianqing said this, Chen Xiaoying and others were overjoyed and flattered Chen Jianqing. Chen Jianqing was proud, but Han Qianer was still standing aside coldly. Her eyes were full of impatience. She didn't even mean to come over to please him. His soaring vanity was like a balloon that was punctured by someone. His face turned very ugly. When Chen Jianqing looked back at Shiyu, he became even more infuriated. The kid has already walked in the direction of the dense forest by himself, he didn't even tell us. His face immediately turned gloomy as he shouted angrily, "Shiyu, what are you doing? Did we agree to go in that direction? Do you have a sense of teamwork?" She stopped, turned around and looked at him coldly. "Who said I want to work with you guys? Don't you think I'm getting in your way?" "Just right, I also think you guys are getting in my way, so we go our own way. We won't interfere with anyone." As soon as these words came out, Chen Jianqing and the others opened their eyes wide. Even Han Qianer looked at her in surprise. In addition to being surprised, Chen Jianqing also flashed a trace of guilty conscience and panic. Did Shiyu figure out my plan? So, he wants to run away from the team. But soon, Chen Jianqing forgot the idea, and he solemnly said, "What do you mean by this? Don't forget that you are only at the foundation establishment stage. You can't even fight a rank 3 magical beast. If you die or quit the assessment, our points will be deducted." Chen Jianqing's words immediately made Chen Xiaoying and others agitated. In fact, They didn't care about the life and death of Shiyu, but Shiyu as a useless low-rank martial artist should beg them for help. Her arrogant attitude really triggered them. Especially Qin Xiaoying, for so many assessments, she walked all the way by currying others, so she was particularly displeased with Shiyu's stubbornness. Chapter 1091, Stop messing with me. She stepped forward, grabbed Hashi, and said coldly, if you want to go, hand in the storage bag and medicinal pills given by the academy. These are our team resources, not yours. Qin Jiancheng and others agreed upon hearing the words. Wang Hai even sneered, if you want to die, we won't stop you, but we must bring back the things that belong to our team. You don't want to pass the assessment, but we want. Hashi's gaze swept across everyone's faces, and she finally stopped at Qin Xiaoying. Suddenly, her slender and white jade-like hand clasped Qin Xiaoying's wrist and pulled it lightly. Qin Xiaoying let out a weeping cry, staring at the young man in disbelief. Hashi's expression was still calm as always. When she flipped her wrist lightly, Qin Xiaoying's face was getting more and more ugly. She kept screaming, and her fingers that originally held Hashi naturally loosened. Hashi shrugged Qin Xiaoying's hand, making her roll embarrassedly on the ground. This scene stunned everyone present. Even Han Qianer looked at Hashi with a complicated gaze. When Qin Xiaoying sat up from the ground, her nose and forehead were bleeding and her face was bruised. Her original pretty face now looked like a color palette. She stared at Hashi fiercely, but her body was shaking slightly. The moment she was caught, she obviously wanted to channel her spiritual power, but for some reason, her blood and spiritual power seemed to be frozen. The young man, who was only at the foundation establishment stage, gave her a powerful and terrible sense of oppression. She dared not to act rashly. Hashi looked condescendingly at Qin Xiaoying, then she glanced at Qin Jiancheng and the others and said with a sneer, you should feel fortunate that you are in the secret realm and we are in a team, killing you all will only deduct my points. However, you better stop messing with me, otherwise. I can't guarantee what I will do. After speaking, she didn't stay anymore. She turned around and left quickly. Qin Jiancheng and others stayed were all in a daze. Until Hashi's aura completely disappeared, they suddenly came back to their senses. They looked at each other with ugly faces. Hashi felt a lot more relaxed after leaving the team. There were not many precious spiritual plants in this elusive forest. Hashi searched for a whole day and only harvested a few wind spirit rabbits and a few rank 1 herbs. The spiritual plant and magical beast must be at least rank 2 in order to get points, and the points provided by the rank 2 magical beast was very low. So these wind spirit rabbits and herbs were completely useless. But Hashi didn't dislike them. She temporarily set up a stove, threw a fireball, and cooked the wind spirit rabbit to fill her stomach. As for the rank 1 spiritual grass, she combined it with other common plants in the elusive forest, to made various poisons and antidotes. There were not many spiritual plants in this elusive forest, but there were many common plants that she was familiar with in her previous life. Hashi collected them without hesitation, making Kai Yu who was watching her be puzzled for a while. He didn't understand why did this young man pick those useless grass and trees. After eating full and resting for a whole night, Hashi felt refreshed. Chapter 1092, Break the Enchantment. Although the spiritual power of elusive forest couldn't be absorbed, the air was exceptionally fresh as if every pore of her body was moisturized. However, Hashi was still troubled by the fact that she couldn't absorb spiritual power. She was also going to find enough spiritual grass to refine some spiritual healing pills for backup, but if the absorption of spiritual power couldn't be improved, it was impossible to support the completion of a furnace of medicinal pills. Hashi found a secluded place and sat cross-legged. After sitting still for half an hour, He discovered that when her spiritual power passed by the dantian, it seemed to be blocked by a faint restraining force. Because of this enchantment, the spiritual power that should have gone into the dantian was completely expelled from her body. In the end, the spiritual power absorbed couldn't even reach 1%. He slowly opened her eyes and frowned. Is there any way to bypass this enchantment and let spiritual power enter and exit the dantian normally? What triggers the enchantment? Is it the operation of the spiritual power? What if I can channel the spiritual power without being detected? Heshi's eyes suddenly lit up. She thought of a peculiar way. She closed her eyes again to channel her spiritual power, but this time, she also channeled her internal spiritual force. Heshi carefully wrapped the spiritual power with internal spiritual force, then she slowly circulated it in her entire meridians before going into her dantian. A wave of pure spiritual power suddenly spread from the dantian to the limbs. It's successful. Heshi was overjoyed. This method really works. When she was running both internal spiritual force and spiritual power at the same time, she was able to absorb spiritual power from the natural environment at a faster rate. Heshi closed her eyes and began to experiment continuously to break through the enchantment by running the spiritual power and internal spiritual force at the same time. As she was getting familiar with channeling both different powers, Heshi's body exuded a bright luster. If someone could see the spiritual power with the naked eye at this time, he would find that a spiral of spiritual power had formed around Heshi. At this time, Kaiyu, who looked at the shadow summoning stone, was already shocked. She actually breaks through the prohibition enchantment of the spiritual power absorption. Ho, how is this possible? Isn't Shiyu only at the foundation establishment stage? Even I, who is at the peak of the gold core stage, definitely can't break it. How did Shiyu do it? Is he really a peerless genius once in thousands of years? Kaiyu suddenly raised his head and looked at the Miracle Healer Academy elders on the side. He wanted to tell the elders about this shocking thing, but he suddenly remembered Ren Shuiling's accusation and Lu Zhishi's lonely look. Kaiyu clenched his fists and said nothing, then he continued to release divine sense into the shadow-calling stone. So what if Shiyu is really a genius? This also cannot deny the fact that he bullied and harmed Zhishi. Heshi was particularly happy to solve the problem of spiritual power absorption. In this way, the rank 6 magical beasts in this elusive forest would have no threat to her. Walking alone for a few days, Heshi would hide her aura and avoid the crowd as long as she encountered a group of candidates. With her current high cultivation, her harvest was very good when she walked into the dangerous places of the secret realm. At this time, several rank 3 and rank 4 magical beasts' essences were in her low-level storage bag. As for the high-rank spiritual grass, she didn't find much. She would refine them into pills even if she found them. On this day, Heshi was walking in a muddy swamp, and she suddenly saw a huge gray-white mouse rushing past her eyes. Chapter 1093, Unfathomable, 5 Spiritual Rat. Heshi's eyes lit up. When there is 5 spiritual rat, there are 5 spiritual flowers. In her previous life, there was a saying in Changbai Mountain, if you want to dig ginseng, you have to find the Bohemian waxwing, then it is the same in Miluo continent. If you want to find the 5 spiritual flower, first look for the 5 spiritual rat. Even though this 5 spiritual rat was only rank 3, it was extremely fast and was good at burrowing into the ground. Ordinary martial artists simply couldn't catch it. The 5 spirit flowers were the spirit flowers transformed by the natural spirit. Their ranks were not high, which were usually rank 4, but they often grew in batches. If she found the 5 spiritual flower, it meant she didn't have to work hard to accumulate points anymore. Heshi used divine sense to wrap around the 5 spiritual rat, then she followed it to run around in the swamp. There were a lot of dangers in this swamp. From time to time, a black crocodile would try to attack Hashi, but she just finished it off with a slash. In addition to the black crocodiles, there were ubiquitous mists in the swamp. These mists were all poisonous. If anyone ran into it, he would be severely injured even if he survived. But to Hashi, this kind of poison was nothing, it couldn't stop her at all. Poor Caillou, who was looking at her in the monitoring room, was already shocked by what happened before her eyes. Poison mist swamp, black crocodile, golden pattern leopard, these are all dangerous place and magical beasts that even the gold core stage cultivators are afraid of, but this Shiyu, who is obviously at the foundation establishment stage, can deal with them easily like chopping vegetables. How unfathomable is the strength of this young man. If such a person leaves, elusive forest, alive, wouldn't the kind Jishi be in danger? Thinking of this, Caillou's face slightly turned pale and frowned deeply. In elusive forest, Hashi had followed the 5 spiritual rats to find a batch of 5 spiritual flowers at the end of the poisonous mist swamp. These 5 spiritual flowers were swaying in with the winds. They had strong spirits. Most of them were rank 4, and a few had even reached rank 5. Hashi picked these 5 spiritual flowers, and she secretly moved a rank 5 spiritual flowers from the storage bag to the void. 5 spiritual flower was the best material for refining the spirit healing pill, but it was really precious and rare, so she had never gotten it in her hands. In the future, when she planted the 5 spiritual flowers in her void, then the quality of the spirit healing pill would probably be doubled again. Hashi left the poisonous fog swamp with satisfaction, then she found a safe valley and took out the pill refining furnace given by the academy. Anyway, the trial was only a few days. Her points were definitely more than enough, so she didn't have to hunt anymore. In overflowing cauldron pill scripture, there were several pill formulas related to 5 spiritual flower. For the remaining few days, she would try it out. At this moment, Hashi, who was at ease, didn't know that a crisis was approaching her gradually. The members of the 6th team had gone through hunting and gathering these days, and they had also accumulated some points. Because they had Han Qianer, a master of the gold core stage, they did not encounter any danger when they encountered magical beasts below rank 5. Han Qianer kept her face cold. When she encountered the magical beast's essence and spiritual plants that were below rank 4, she didn't even bat an eye on them. Therefore, Qin Jiancheng and others got a lot of benefits because of this. However, these people were awkwardly looking at Qin Jiancheng. Because Qin Jiancheng originally agreed to refine the spirit healing pill for everyone, but when they collected all the medicinal herbs, Qin Jiancheng could refine them. Chapter 1094, full of resentment however, he found that the refining was unsuccessful at all. Every time before the pill was condensed, his spiritual power couldn't support it, and the pill refining failed. In order to support Qin Jiancheng's pill refining, they also contributed 2 of their spiritual healing pill. Until now, these people had not had a single medicinal pill. They had become more and more unsightly when they encountered magical beasts. On this day, they passed through a valley and encountered a rank 4 magical beast. They spent a lot of effort to kill this magical beast, but this time, even Han Qianer was panting. She could only sit on the ground and meditate cross-legged. Qin Xiaoying finally couldn't help saying, if we can't find anything to replenish our spirits, I'm afraid we will die because of spiritual power exhaustion before the trial is over. Yang Hailong also frowned and said meaningfully, in fact, the 4 spirit healing pills were still enough to survive these last few days if we used them wisely, but, Haze, how are 2 spirit healing pills enough? Although there was also rank 1 spiritual grass in the secret realm, many of the impurities that were eaten raw were harmful to martial artists, and the spiritual power that could be replenished was not even 1 in 10,000. It was simply impossible to solve the problem. Qin Jiancheng's complexion turned from green to white. He snorted and left with a flick of his sleeve. From being pleased to being questioned now, this kind of gap made him feel extremely depressed. But what made him more irritable was Shiyu. If I can't get rid of Shiyu in this secret realm, then one day this kid will reveal my results. By then. Qin Jianqing couldn't help gritting his teeth viciously when he thought of the picture of himself falling from heaven to hell. Why didn't Shiyu die sooner? If he is dead, then I have no more worries. If someone on the team dies, I can receive a point deduction reminder, but now that there is no deduction reminder, it means that Shiyu is still alive. Isn't Shiyu only at the Foundation establishment stage? Why is he still alive? Qin Jianqing walked farther and farther alone, only feeling that the wind in elusive forest could dispel the resentment in his mind. Suddenly, Wang Hai's voice came from behind, "Brother Qin, wait for me." Wang Hai ran to Qin Jianqing and immediately comforted, "Brother Qin, the group of shallow people have never seen the world. Don't get annoyed by them. Brother Qin can get a score of 999 on the written test, that means you are capable. You can't refine pill because you can't absorb spiritual power in this elusive forest. They are rookies in refining pills, that's why they said that." Qin Jianqing finally felt better when he heard the words. He raised his chin slightly and snorted coldly, "They will pay the price for looking down on me." Yeah. Wang Hai nodded repeatedly, gloating, "I'm different from them. I admire Brother Chen from the bottom of my heart. I'm totally looking up to you. When Brother Chen enters the academy, don't forget to promote me." Qin Jianqing's vanity was satisfied, and the arrogant expression on his face was restored. As he walked up the mountain, he pointed with a smile, "This small assessment isn't a problem at all. My goal is to become the top of Miracle Healer Academy and the president of the Academy's Student Council. You just have to be obedient." Before Qin Jianqing finished speaking, he was taken aback and suddenly pulled Wang Hai to get to the ground together. Chapter 1095, I Have a Way. Wang Hai was staggered by the pull, his knee hurting on the ground, and he was about to exclaim when Qin Jianqing whispered, "Don't talk, look below." Hearing this, Wang Hai quickly looked down. Here was a mountain cliff, and below the cliff was a secluded valley. At this time, a young figure was refining pill in the valley. As the cover of the pill cauldron buzzed and vibrated, a strong fragrance of elixir spread out. The two people on top of the cliff could even smell it. Obviously, this batch of medicinal pills was about to be refined, and it was even a perfect batch of medicinal pills. Wang Hai looked at the boy intently, and his eyes widened as he blurted out, "Shiyu?" It turned out that the young man who was refining medicinal pills in this valley was Heshi, who had been away from their team for several days. Wang Hai looked at Heshi up and down, only to see her neat clothes and a calm look. Even during the pill refining, her spiritual power wasn't blocked at all. He gritted his teeth. This kid is only at the foundation establishment stage, and he is alone, how can he be so leisurely? This is totally different from our embarrassing state. At this moment, medicinal pills were successfully refined. Wang Hai and Qin Jianqing probed their heads and looked in the direction of the pill cauldron. With just this look, Wang Hai couldn't help opening his mouth wide. He said in a trembling voice, How come there are so many? Generally, a batch of medicinal pills could have more than 10 or 12 pills, and the Academy gave a low-grade pill cauldron. It was very good if 5 to 6 pills could be refined in a cauldron. However, a batch of medicinal pills refined by Shiyu had a total of 40 pills. Didn't they say that low-grade pill cauldron isn't good in refining pills? Didn't they say that we can't use spiritual power in the elusive forest? Didn't they say that the foundation establishment stage's pill refiner cannot purify the impurities in the spiritual fire even if he has subdued the spiritual fire? How did this guy do it? Qin Jianqing's facial muscles twitched. He glared at Wang Hai and said coldly, Shut up. Be quiet, do you want Shiyu to find out? If Wang Hai was just shocked and jealous, then Chen Jiancheng was going crazy with jealousy. At this time, his killing intent toward Shi Yu was even stronger than ever. Wang Hai swallowed and said in a low voice, "Why don't we go down now and ask him for medicinal pills? He is still in the 6th team, we are not good for him if we die." Chen Jiancheng was silent when he heard the words, and he pulled Wang Hai back several steps. Until Chen Jiancheng confirmed that Shi Yu didn't notice them, he sneered and said, "Wang Hai, do you want to snatch all the medicinal pills from Shi Yu?" "Of course I want, but." Chen Jiancheng squinted, lowered his voice, and leaned close to Wang Hai's ear. Shi Yu is only at the foundation establishment stage. As long as we kill him, the medicinal pills and the spiritual plant we found will be ours. For pill refining, a spiritual plant was definitely needed. The medicinal pills refined by Heshi were so mellow and rich in aroma, the spiritual plant found must be of very high rank. As long as these spiritual plants could be obtained, their scores in this assessment would definitely be very high. But Wang Hai was shocked when he heard this, almost loudly saying, "How can this be? Isn't this forbidden in the trial?" Chen Jiancheng covered Wang Hai's mouth and cursed in his mind. But the expression and tone on his face were exceptionally gentle. He continued to whisper in his ear, "I know that the academy prohibits killing each other in the same team, but I have a way." Chapter 1096, Help, I have a way to make Shi Yu die without anyone knowing. Even the invigilators will never doubt us. When Shi Yu dies, her medicinal pills and the items in his storage bag will be divided equally between us. With the spiritual plants in Shi Yu's hands, you will definitely pass the assessment. What do you think? Wang Hai was pounding as he listened. His eyes were flickering with hesitation and vicious ambition. The benefits of killing Shi Yu were obvious. However, if the invigilators discovered his actions, it was equivalent to no further promotion. He might even be blacklisted by the academy in the future. Seeing that he was moved by his proposal, Chen Jiancheng hurriedly told his plan. Wang Hai's eyes brightened as he listened, and his whole body trembled slightly with excitement. Chen Jiancheng looked at the flames in his eyes with satisfaction. He smiled and said, "As long as you do this for me, I will cover you in Miracle Healer Academy in the future. Let you enjoy the advantage of being on top of people." Wang Hai nodded repeatedly, never hesitating. His face was full of excitement. The two went back to look at Shi Yu under the valley, then they looked at each other with a cold smile, turned and left the top of the mountain. In the valley, Heshi checked the 30+ spirit healing pills, and she finally showed a satisfied smile. In the past 2 days, she had refined several batches of medicinal pills with 5 spiritual flower as the main medicinal material. However, due to the poor quality of the cauldron, the number of refined medicinal pills had not been large, and the quality didn't reach the best quality. Isn't this failing the pure spiritual power effect of the 5 spiritual flower? Therefore, the unwilling Heshi tried different methods. Finally, she discovered when she put some water's spiritual power into the spiritual fire to refine, the purity of medicinal pills would be greatly improved. Heshi picked up a spirit healing pill and swallowed it. What surprised her was that in addition to the rapid replenishment of the spiritual power throughout her entire body, Heshi also felt that the fatigue and hunger accumulated from refining pills for a long time had disappeared without a trace. The spiritual power that was replenished into her body didn't pour arrogantly as the spiritual healing pill, but it ran like a long stream of water in the dantian and meridians. They were also used to replenish spirits, but these medicinal pills were milder and easier to absorb than the spirit healing pills. This can no longer be described as a spirit healing pill, right? Heshi picked up a medicinal pills, put the rest in the storage bag, and then smiled slightly. Since it is no longer a spirit healing pill, then I will name you 5 spiritual pill, the best 5 spiritual pill. The name Heshi had always been so random in naming, so in the future, the name of the 5 spiritual pill, which would be popular in Miracle Healer Academy and Milieu continent, was decided like this. Heshi finally let a sigh of relief for successfully refining the best 5 spirit pills. She decided to try to refine another medicinal pill in overflowing cauldron pill scripture. Just as she adjusted her breath for a while and was about to put the raw materials into the cauldron, she looked solemn. Immediately afterward, there were bursts of panic-stricken cries for help from a distance. Heshi walked out of the valley, and she saw a man stumbled toward her, shouting, "Help, help! Somebody help me!" Along with this person, there was a hum that seemed to make the valley tremble. Behind this person, there was a dense swarm of bees covering the sky and the sun. Chapter 1097, How to Help You. From the speed at which the wings trembled, one could feel the anger and brutality of these bees. Heshi almost recognized at a glance that the person calling for help was Wang Hai, her teammate in the same group. The clusters of bees that followed behind him were poison spiritual bees. Poison spiritual bee was only rank 1 magical beast. Its stinger was poisonous, but it was not a problem to the martial artists at all. However, if thousands of poison spiritual bees grouped up to attack someone, it was even more terrifying than the rank 6 magical beast. It only took a second for a gold core stage martial artist to be killed by the swarm. Wang Hai anxiously channeled spiritual power as he ran for his life. When he saw Heshi, his eyes lit up, and he rushed toward Heshi. "Shiyu, help me! Help me!" Heshi squinted at Wang Hai's face with a half-smile. Although Wang Hai kept yelling for help, there was no despair or panic on his face. Instead, his eyes were rolling around, apparently having some ill intentions. Heshi floated up into the air, leaping backward and quickly distancing herself from Wang Hai. Wang Hai was stunned for a moment, and he slowed down by half a beat. He was almost caught up by the ferocious bee swarm. His face changed drastically. He stared at Heshi fiercely while continuing to run toward her and saying loudly, "Shiyu, are you going to watch me die? Don't forget, we are in the same team. If I'm dead, your points will also be deducted." Heshi was calmly standing on a stone with a majestic attitude, and she said casually, "Oh? How do you want me to help you?" Seeing Heshi standing still, Wang Hai was overjoyed. When he was about to run in front of Heshi, he suddenly threw something at Heshi. Heshi only felt that a strong fragrance with the sweetness of pollen came at her. Oh, it turns out to be the hive of poison spiritual bees. No wonder so many poison spiritual bees are chasing Wang Hai desperately. Although poison spiritual bees were extremely poisonous and terrifying, their hive was a rare material. Not only is spirit strong, but it also has the effect of detoxifying many insect toxins. There was a medicinal pill in the overflowing cauldron pill scripture which lacked such a main material. Heshi smirked and kept the honeycomb in the storage bag. Since Wang Hai wanted to give her such a good treasure, she wouldn't say no. When Wang Hai saw Shiyu put the poison spiritual bee's hive in her storage bag, he cursed, "Fools," in his mind with a face full of ridicule. Poison spiritual bees' senses are not an ordinary sense of smell. Even if the hive is kept in the storage equipment, they can still sense it. This is also the reason why many martial artists dare not provoke the poison spiritual bees. Because once they steal their hive, the poisonous spiritual bees will chase endlessly until they kill the poacher. This ignorant Shiyu. He thought he could escape by putting the hive in the storage bag. Let's see how he dies here. Thinking of this, Wang Hai stopped running away, looking at the swarm of bees rushing toward Heshi with a gloat. Chen Jiancheng, who was hiding in the corner, was also full of excitement. Although he was unwilling to take the risk to provoke the poison spiritual bee, he must confirm the death of Shiyu with his own eyes. Seeing tens of millions of poison spiritual bees rush toward Shiyu angrily, he seemed to be able to hear Shiyu's painful scream the moment and see her turning into a dead corpse. Chapter 1098, Opportunity to dedicate selflessly. However, he didn't see Shiyu's panicked face as expected. She still looked calm as usual, even leisurely with a hint of sarcasm. She cast a water spiritual power to wrap the storage bag that kept the beehive. As the storage bag was wrapped in water spiritual power, the dense swarm of bees in the sky seemed to have suddenly lost their target and kept spinning around irritability. A few also flew in Heshi's direction, but they were killed by her casually. During this period, she also secretly collected more than a dozen poison spiritual bees into the void. Only the plants in her void were not sealed, and it was not easy to bear fruit after flowering. These few poison spiritual bees could solve this trouble. But Wang Hai, who was waiting to see a good show, was dumbfounded. Why don't the poison spiritual bees attack Shiyu? Just because of the water spiritual power cast by Shiyu? However, if the water spiritual power can block the aura of the hive, many martial artists have long removed the hive of the poison spiritual bees. How did Shiyu do it? Wang Hai was stunned in amazement, but Heshi suddenly raised his head, looked at Wang Hai, and smiled slowly. Thank you for your hive, but it's not impolite to return a gift. I hope you will like my gift too. After finishing speaking, she flicked her finger, and a water drop flew toward Wang Hai with a fierce momentum. Wang Hai didn't even know what Heshi launched at him. He saw the poison spiritual bees, which were lost in the air, suddenly fluttered again and made a terrifying buzzing sound. Afterward, they rushed toward Wang Hai frantically. Wang Hai was scared witless. He turned around and ran desperately. As he ran, he cursed, Shiyu, what did you bastard do to me? Let these poison spiritual bees go away. Go away. Heshi was standing on the rock with her arms around her chest, watching him getting chased by the poison spiritual bees with a half-smile. Chen Jianqing originally planned to hide in the dark and only appear after Wang Hai killed Shiyu. However, without knowing what happened, the poison spiritual bee flew toward Wang Hai. At this moment, Chen Jianqing couldn't wait anymore. He pretended to have just arrived from a distance. He put up a shocked expression and said angrily, Shiyu, that's our teammate. You see him in a danger, how can you not save him? Is it because he insulted you in the first place, so you want to watch him die? Heshi smiled slightly. Her eyes seemed to be reflecting light under the sun. Oh. Teammate? Since you care about your teammates so much and hate me for not saving teammate, how about I give you a chance to dedicate yourself selflessly? After finishing speaking, she flicked her finger, and a water droplet wrapped the same pollen fell on Chen Jianqing. Chen Jianqing still had an angry questioning face. Suddenly, realized that the poison spiritual bees that were chasing Wang Hai had suddenly been divided in half and flew toward him. The poison spiritual bee swarms were terrifying creatures that even the gold core stage couldn't deal with. Chen Jianqing backed away in fright, and he even pushed Heshi with grievance. Chapter 1099, Running around. There was a leisurely smile on Heshi's face. Even when she was pushed, she even walked toward the bee swarm. However, the next moment, a scene frightened Chen Jianqing. The bee swarm rushed toward Heshi, but they didn't touch her at all. On the contrary, they seemed to be terrified of something as they detoured directly and rushed toward Chen Jianqing fiercely. Chen Jianqing screamed. He didn't daring to stay for half a second, and he channeled all his spiritual power to run forward quickly. Although his speed was already very fast, a few poison spiritual bees still caught up with him and stung his head a few times. The painful Chen Jianqing kept screaming like a pig. He ate the last spirit healing pill, barely pulling the distance between the bee swarm. Two swarms of poison spiritual bees chased Wang Hai and Chen Jianqing around, and they unknowingly bumped into each other. The originally terrifying bee swarm was even more powerful after converging. Wang Hai was now sweating profusely and panting heavily. He asked Chen Jianqing in horror, how could this happen? How could this happen? Brother Chen, what should we do? My spiritual power will soon be exhausted. Do you still have a spirit healing pill? Qin Jianqing's face would never be better than Wang Hai's face. He gritted his teeth and said, "It must be the boy Shiyu." "No way, cough cough. If this goes on, even if we aren't stung to death by the poison spiritual bees, we will be dead due to spiritual power exhaustion." The two of them had been running for half an hour. Although running did not consume much spiritual power, their spiritual power was about to run out. Wang Hai, who didn't have a spiritual healing pill, was about to collapse. He was full of regrets. If I knew this would happen, I would definitely not be greedy about the power in the academy and collude with Qin Jianqing. If he didn't try to set up Shiyu, even if I cannot pass the assessment, there will be no life danger at least. Thinking of this, Wang Hai took out his inscribed jade slip and thought secretly, when my spiritual power is exhausted, I will activate the inscribed jade slip. So what if I fail the assessment? I can still come back next year. Qin Jianqing suddenly said, "Right, let's find the water source. I remember that there is a water source not far away. As long as we jump into the water, the damn poisonous bees can't do anything to us." Upon hearing this, Wang Hai immediately put away the inscribed jade slip. "If I can pass the assessment, who wants to quit?" The two ran quickly to the southwest, and it didn't take long before they saw a clear stream. Wang Hai and Qin Jianqing looked at each other in joy. But at this moment, the poisoned spiritual bees behind seemed to have realized something, and they suddenly uttered a harsh buzzing sound. The speed of the bee swarm was suddenly accelerated. In an instant, the bee swarm that was a dozen meters away arrived in front of them. The stream was also a few steps in front of them. Wang Hai widened his eyes in horror, quickly trying to activate the inscribed jade slip. But under the rush, he dropped the inscribed jade slip to the ground. Wang Hai was about to bend over to pick it up, then a huge force came from behind. He staggered and fell into the dense poison spiritual bees. The heart-piercing pain instantly spread throughout his body, causing Wang Hai to let out a mournful cry. Chapter 1100, All Dead Qin Jianqing. Qin Jianqing. He actually pushes me to death. This was Wang Hai's last thought. The next moment, accompanied by a sharp cry, his entire body was covered by poisoned spiritual bees. In the monitoring room, the Academy Student Council's members in charge of Wang Hai shuddered as they looked at the bee swarm in a human shape. Although it looked terrifying and unbearable, Miracle Healer Academy had regulations that unless the candidate asked for help himself during the trial, the elders and the invigilators would never take action even if candidate died. As Wang Hai's screams became smaller and smaller, the recording stones in the invigilator's hand suddenly cracked. The student stood up with a pale face and reported to the elder above, "Elder Fu, the candidate Wang Hai is dead." Elder Fu nodded at the top, and was about to say, "Life and death are decreed by fate." Suddenly, the dozen Academy Student Council members below all showed horrified expressions. Afterward, the recording stones in their hands shattered one after another. The voices of "Papa" sounded one after another in the quiet monitoring room, bringing a weird sense of panic. The elders, who were originally cultivating, were shocked after taking a glance at the recorded image. Elder Qin asked in a deep voice, "What happened?" Several Academy Student Council's members below stood up one after another with a fearful look. Under Elder Qin's solemn gaze, someone finally said tremblingly, "The second team is all dead." Another Academy Student Council's member swallowed and added, "The fifth team is also all dead." Elder Qin and the other elders looked at each other with shocked expressions. They didn't ask any more, but they waved their long sleeves and quickly switched the angle of the image. In the next moment, a scene of bloody and violent violence came into view, making the faces of the elders extremely ugly. But at this time, none of Heshi, Qin Jianqing and others at the side of the valley had noticed everything that was seen in the monitoring room. Chen Jianqing didn't get out of the water until he determined the poisoned spiritual bees had all left. A swollen corpse lying on the grass not far from him. He walked a few steps forward and took a glance, almost vomiting out of nausea. The corpse was of course Wang Hai, but at this time, it didn't look like Wang Hai at all. Except for the clothes, his body that wasn't covered was full of dense black poison tumors. Especially on the face, the entire face was all swollen. However, the fear and nausea were only a moment, and Chen Jianqing felt very grateful soon. Fortunately, he made a decisive decision and chose to pull Wang Hai, otherwise it would be him who turned into this horrible look. What did the bitch Shiyu do to make the poisoned spiritual bees chase me? He is just at the foundation establishment stage. I don't believe that I can't get rid of him. I don't believe that he can be so lucky every time. Chen Jianqing picked up Wang Hai's storage and was about to leave to find Shiyu. He suddenly heard Chen Xiaoying's voice. Brother Chen, are you okay? Just now I heard screams here, what happened? Not far away, Chen Xiaoying, Yang Hailong and Han Qianer all hurried over. Chapter 1101, lying. As soon as Chen Jianqing rolled his eyes, he immediately made a distressed expression, knelt down in front of Wang Hai's corpse, and cried loudly, Wang Hai, it's all Brother Chen's fault. If it wasn't for saving Brother Chen, you won't be framed to death, the bitch Shiyu. Woo, it's my fault that I only have medical skills. My cultivation isn't high enough to deal with the poisoned spiritual bee swarm. Chen Xiaoying and Yang Hailong were shocked and they heard this, and they hurried over to check the body. After just one glance, Chen Xiaoying's face turned pale and vomited with a shout. This is Wang Hai. Isn't this too scary? Chen Xiaoying tremblingly asked, Brother Chen, our inscribed jade slip has received the news that our points have been deducted. I didn't expect it to be Wang Hai. But, did Shiyu really kill him? Isn't Shiyu only at the foundation establishment stage? Chen Jianqing twisted his face and said, I don't know where Shiyu learned the witchcraft. He can actually control the poisoned spiritual bees. Poor Wang Hai was caught off guard and was stung to death by the thousands of poisoned spiritual bees. What? Poisoned spiritual bee? How can Shiyu be so vicious? Both Chen Xiaoying and Yang Hailong were full of resentment. Looking at Wang Hai's death, even if they had a bad attitude toward Shiyu, he should be so ruthless. Chen Jianqing wiped his tears and said bitterly, I, Chen Jianqing, swear here, when I see Shiyu again, if I don't avenge for Wang Hai, I'm not a man. As soon as he spoke, a clear voice came from far to near, then you have already seen it, so what are you going to do? Under the sun, the wind blew slowly and the grass was green. The scenery was stunning. But the young man seemed to be more beautiful than the scenery. He slowly approached them and glanced at Chen Jianqing with ridicule. She slowly said, Chen Jianqing, isn't it wonderful to survive by stepping on someone's corpse? Chen Jianqing's expression changed abruptly, and his instinctive guilty conscience and panic made him look aside. But he happened to meet Han Qianer's thoughtful gaze. Chen Jianqing only felt a buzz in his head as if something had broken. He yelled, Shiyu, you bitch, I want to kill you to avenge Wang Hai. After speaking, he carried the flying sword and rushed toward He. However, Chen Jianqing seemed to have forgotten that he had exhausted his spiritual power when running away from the bee swarm. He couldn't even use spiritual weapon now. Facing such a useless person, He didn't even move a hand. When he lunged over, she tilted slightly to one side and kicked Chen Jianqing to the ground. She stepped forward 2 steps and stepped on Chen Jianqing's chest with one foot, making him lay on the ground like a turtle. Then she sneered and said, Chen Jianqing, don't think that I'm easy to bully. Even if Miracle Healer Academy stipulates that teammates cannot kill each other, but I have multiple ways to make a person suffer a living hell. Chen Jianqing shivered in first by Heshi's fierce aura at first, but he regained his consciousness immediately. He shouted, "Shiyu, you dare to hit me? You don't want to stay in the Miracle Healer Academy anymore?" Chapter 1102, Narrow-Minded. Chen Jianqing's pupils shrank suddenly. Although he had guessed that Shiyu already knew, when Shiyu said it herself, he still felt panic. So Shiyu knew. He really knew it a long time ago. Then if he leaves the secret realm, he will definitely expose it. Won't I be ruined by then? Chen Jianqing became more and more panicked as he thought about it, and his eyes became more and more hateful when he looked at Heshi. At this time, Qin Xiaoying and others finally came back to their senses. They were just shocked by the scene before them. Chen Jianqing is at the peak of the meridian stage and Shiyu is only at the foundation establishment stage. Why is Chen Jianqing so vulnerable to Shiyu? Qin Xiaoying pointed to Wang Hai's body and asked sharply, "Shiyu, did you really kill Wang Hai?" Before Heshi answered, Chen Jianqing screamed immediately, "It's him." He wanted to get the hive of the poison spiritual bee, so he let Wang Hai and me lead the poison spiritual bees away. When we finally got to this stream, we had already exhausted our spiritual power. Wang Hai is one step late, and he ended up like this. As he said, he looked at Heshi with fiercely twinkling eyes, "Shiyu, do you dare to say that the poison spiritual bee's hive is not in your hands now?" Heshi exerted force on her foot, and Chen Jianqing screamed even more painfully. She said smugly, "So what if it is in my hands?" Chen Xiaoying and Yang Hailong took a breath, even Han Qianer's face looked gloomy. Chen Xiaoying screamed, "Shiyu, how can you do such a thing? Wang Hai is our teammate, you let him die for your own benefit? Do you still have a little conscience?" Yang Hailong also said viciously, "You treat Brother Chen and Wang Hai this way. Isn't it because they treated you badly, so you take revenge on them? Shiyu, aren't you too narrow-minded?" "I'm narrow-minded." Heshi let out a sigh of relief. There wasn't any humiliation and hatred of being insulted on her face, but she smiled leisurely, "Well, since you all said so, I don't mind being narrow-minded." As soon as the voice fell, she jumped into the air. With two bang sounds, Chen Xiaoying and Yang Hailong were both kicked to the ground. Heshi landed slowly to the ground, then she turned her wrist without looking back. The long sword tip pointed precisely at Han Qianer's neck. Han Qianer's hand was still on the hilt of the sword. She had an uncertain face. She hadn't seen exactly how Shiyu did it just now. Chen Xiaoying and Yang Hailong were already crying in pain. Together with Chen Jianqing who was still lying on the ground, the three of them couldn't even climb up for a while. Chen Xiaoying looked at Heshi with horror, but more with hatred, "Shiyu, how can you do this? Isn't it enough that you killed Wang Hai? You even want to retaliate us? Stop talking." Unexpectedly, this time Han Qianer, who had been quiet, spoke. Her gaze swept across Heshi then at Chen Xiaoying and Yang Hailong. Her ice-cold voice sounded unquestionable, "Stop embarrassing yourself. Don't you understand what Shiyu just did?" Chapter 1103, Roar of Magical Beast. Han Qianer glanced at him coldly with a ridicule expression, "Chen Jianqing, did you really get the score of 999 by yourself? Shiyu's moves just now has proved that his combat effectiveness is stronger than the four of us combined. If he wants to deal with you and Wang Hai, does he need to go through all the troubles?" As soon as Han Qianer said this, the three people present were shocked. What does Han Qianer mean? Although we were beaten badly by Shiyu just now, we were unprepared just now. He is just at the foundation establishment stage. How could he be our opponent? Chen Xiaoying chuckled twice, "Miss Han, don't make such a joke, how can this damn kid be possibly?" Before she finished her words, Heshi's expression suddenly changed. She flew away directly. For a while, everyone who stayed by the stream, including Han Qian'er, was stunned. Chen Jiancheng grabbed his painful chest, got up from the ground and laughed mockingly. What's stronger than the four of us? Pooey. He is just a coward. Didn't he run away before us? Chen Xiaoying and Yang Hailong also got up from the ground, and they wanted to go along with the curse. Suddenly, a strange beast roar came from a distance, accompanied by the screams of men and women. At this moment, Han Qian'er's face also changed, and she finally knew why Shiyu would leave suddenly. She immediately ran toward Heshi's direction without thinking. Heshi had found the trick to absorb spiritual power, so she was not afraid of flying, but Han Qian'er now only had one spiritual healing pill left. Of course, she had to save a little. For a time, only Chen Jiancheng and the other two remained on the spot. They looked at each other, then looked at the distance in horror. Chen Xiaoying whispered, I seem to have heard the roar of the magical beast. Did someone encounter a rank 6 magical beast? Should we go and check it out? Or should we find a place to hide? Yang Hailong hurriedly said, we have Ms. Han, the gold core stage, here. I think we should hide. Of course, Chen Jiancheng wanted to hide, but thinking of Shiyu who was still alive, he felt anxious like a thorn on his back. No, I must seize every opportunity to get rid of this hidden danger. Thinking of this, he said solemnly, let's restore the spiritual power first, then we go and take a look. After Chen Jiancheng finished speaking, he sat cross-legged on the ground. Yang Hailong and Chen Xiaoying looked at each other and could only sit down. However, before they sat for a quarter of an hour to meditate, the roar of the beast approached them quickly, accompanied by sharp screams. Far away, the one rushing forward was the young man whom they hated. The young man was in a pale blue shirt, and his black hair was fluttering in the wind. He flew in the air like an arrow. When he saw the three sitting by the river, a cold, hurried voice came, if you don't want to die, leave the stream immediately and stay away from the valley. It was Shiyu. All three of them stood up from the ground with ugly expressions. Shiyu was actually commanding them. Chen Jiancheng was about to curse, but a beast roar caught their attention. Chapter 1104, Black Death Bear. If she didn't hear the roar, she would almost think that what was following Shiyu was a moving mountain. Looking from the valley, only a huge black body and frantically dancing limbs could be seen. The black hair and limbs were stained with blood, and one of the front paws was holding a human head. It was not until the giant magical beast approached that Chen Xiaoying and the others discovered that this turned out to be a giant black bear. Yang Hailong suddenly stared in horror. This is Black Bear. Black Bear has always been the top in the magical beasts of the same rank. This Black Bear should at least be rank 6. Rank 6 Black Bear, that is a magical beast that can even kill the gold core stage with a slap. Why are we in such bad luck? No. It's not that we are in bad luck, but Shiyu brought the magical beast over. Chen Jiancheng cursed while running in horror, Shiyu, you bitch, you want to kill us all? If we are all dead, you will not end well too. Heshi didn't even look at them while they were scolding. She leaped into the valley and landed on the side of the stream. At the same time, the black bear also entered the valley. Heshi's eyes flashed as she said sharply, Wei Chengyuan, hurry up, now. Outside the valley, Wei Chengyuan soon appeared. He, who had always been a gentleman, looked very embarrassed at the moment. His hair was scattered, his clothes were torn, and there were blood stains on his mouth. But he seemed very calm. As soon as Heshi spoke, he threw a few monster essence pills toward the valley. Then he made a complicated gesture, and an ice spiritual power was launched at the black bear. With a burst of tearing sound, a spiritual power wall rose up around the valley in an instant. And the black bear was trapped in the spiritual power wall, and it roared furiously, shaking the entire valley. Wei Chengyuan spat out a mouthful of blood, but he looked relieved. Even so, he was only relieved for a moment, then he looked worried again. At this time, many more examinees who participated in the trial followed one after another and landed beside Wei Chengyuan. Someone saw the black bear trapped in the enchantment, and they were relieved from escaping death. They said in joy, "Wei Chengyuan, you are so amazing. You really trapped the black bear." Wei Chengyuan wiped the blood from his mouth and looked at He with a smile. "Shiyu, thanks to you, if you didn't risk your life to lead the black bear away, I would never find a chance to form the gesture." He frowned, threw a medicinal pill to him, and she frowned and looked at the black bear that was going crazy in the formation. Just now she was in this valley, she suddenly felt the powerful aura of a magical beast and smelled the blood, so she rushed to check it out. Unexpectedly, she saw Wei Chengyuan and the others fighting against the black bear. When He arrived, these people had already suffered heavy losses. The ground was full of corpses. Wei Chengyuan, the only combatant, was desperately rushing toward the black bear, trying to buy time for his teammates to run. The black bear's paw that contained lightning power was about to slap Wei Chengyuan to death. Chapter 1105, Change. The black bear was in pain. Its anger level rose from 7 to 10, and the hatred was all transferred to He. Without even thinking, He withdrew her sword and ran. At this moment, she heard Wei Chengyuan shouting behind her, "Shiyu, take this black bear between the mountain walls, I will trap it with an enchantment." He herself was not the opponent of this black bear, so there was the previous scene. Now, the black bear was finally trapped, and all the surviving couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. They counted the number, only to find sadly that there were not even 20 candidates left in the original 8 teams with more than 40 candidates. The second team, the fourth team, and the fifth team were all dead. For the other teams, except for the sixth team that was only affected at the end, most of the other teams were left with only 2 to 3 people. In the end, there were only 15 people who were still standing there. The black bear is just a magical beast, but it killed about 30 candidates. Even if it is a rank 6 magical beast, isn't this too unusual? He said her doubt. Wei Chengyuan swallowed a medicinal pill and breathed a sigh of relief. "I don't know why either. This black bear is very fast, and it is especially targeting us." He frowned and said, "Devour martial artists. Didn't those people crush the inscribed jade slip when they were swallowed?" A teammate beside Wei Chengyuan said with a pale face, I tried to crush the inscribed jade slip when I saw Qi Hua was devoured, but no one came to help and I couldn't get out." "What?" He's face became solemn. She took out the inscribed jade slip and tried it. As expected, even if the spiritual power was injected, there was no response at all. What exactly is going on? Wei Chengyuan's teammates' words made others echo. I also tried to crush the inscribed jade slip, but it was useless. When our teammates died, we didn't hear any more reminders too. What the hell is going on? Have we been abandoned in this secret realm? How could they possibly abandon us? Miracle Healer Academy's assessments have always been dangerous. Maybe this is a test of our ability. Someone immediately retorted, "Isn't the black bear trapped now? Maybe this is just a new trial that the Academy prepared." That's right. Maybe whoever killed the black bear can become the top one of this year's entrance examination. Brother Wei can trap the rank 6 black bear, he should of course be top 1, right? I think that Shiyu is also very powerful. He is obviously just at the foundation establishment stage, but the black bear couldn't even keep up with his speed. Yeah, we even said that he was a trash before. It turns out that he has such power. If it weren't for him, we would have died in the hands of the black bear. At this time, Qin Jiancheng and Qin Xiaoying also walked over with ugly faces when they heard everyone's comments. Especially Qin Jiancheng, who heard them talking about Wei Chengyuan and Shiyu as the top one, was burning in his heart. He was completely ignored by everyone. This kind of honor should belong to me. I'm the top one of this batch, I should be the one who gets flattered by everyone. Black bear, yes, as long as I kill the black bear, both my points and popularity among the candidates can be greatly improved. You're tuning into the Dreamy Chapters YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.